Okay, forging on. So 2 projects within the company. Quick disclaimer, quick corporate snapshot, and 2 projects that drive the company. They're slightly back to front, mainly because of the map of the world there, but our primary focus over the last few years, as some may know, has been the mongoose play up around right next door to Cloncurry. So there we have proved up a resource, and we're in the process now of, in the serious process now of rationalising that asset and creating some value and money for the company and shareholders. So interesting times there. And of course the Yukon, which took us a little bit by surprise over the next month or 2, we weren't paying a lot of attention to it, mainly because, as Chrissy said, it's far too cold up there. I'm a West Aussie and now live in Queensland, so warm weather is my forte. However, we did find some very interesting stuff when we started looking at it. So Cloncurry, it's a JV with Glencore, lucky us, and we're earning back in that. So it's always been too small for them. So we triggered earn back provisions within our joint venture, and we've been spending up there to prove up and develop what's called the mongoose resource. The interesting thing about this particular project is mongoose is contiguous to our neighbours. It's True North. True North have had their issues late last year. We've been sort of working with them for a good couple of years. A new team has come in there sort of mid last year. They've recapitalised the company. We're having very sensible discussions. I like the new guys, and I think what will potentially happen there is a rationalisation of the Taipan deposit and the mongoose deposit, which are basically one and the same. And the nice outcome for us is if we can negotiate a suitable transaction with those guys, the mongoose deposit almost certainly will go up in tonnes. So we're starting at that 3 million tonne mark, but that's our current pit shell, and that will grow. Recently we did some drilling up there. Last October we got some great numbers. We've also been targeting what we call the mongoose deeps, which is seeing what we've got here within this probable IOCG system. We got some very sexy numbers, didn't quite get the cigar, but we're still working on that. So it's a 2-pronged attack there. We're looking at mongoose deeps, but also looking at the shallow material as well. So a nice little picture there. We got $330,000 for that deep hole, which was nice. So it basically paid for half of it. It was successful, as in the drilling on that, and more work to come. It's a little cross-section of what we see up there, recent hole there, big 107 metres of mineralisation with some nice high-grade stuff in amongst it, but that's pretty much what that whole area is around True North's ground and ours. So, it's a case of getting in there and starting to look at monetising that. Little pretty picture there of what the deeps may be. So of course a lot of this is always theory because we're talking about stuff that's sub 500 and sub 1,000 metres. So we're in the run for another grant to do some more drilling there deeper, and we're hopeful we'll get that and we'll have another crack. Yukon's a legacy asset which we inherited as sort of part of a new management team. Everyone in the room here be familiar with how the juniors sometimes rotate boards and management and money. It was drilled out back in the last boom. They spent, I don't know how much money on it because most of it's been written off and I haven't really looked back in the accounts, but somewhere around 40 million plus or minus. It has a resource. It is zinc, and it is in the Yukon. So from my past history working with global mining teams and stuff, it was never high on my agenda, mainly because I kind of went, that's not our wheelhouse. Yukon's not us. So I've actually sold that project twice in the last 5-6 years. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, both groups failed to make their final option payments. So here we are, still with the asset, and I was still talking to 2 parties. Recently in December, our neighbour, Fireweed, who have a pretty big deposit over there, well advanced, well supported by the Lundin Group as well. They announced that they'd received funding from the US Department of Defence and the Canadian Infrastructure Fund to provide support for the development of that project, which is tungsten, zinc, germanium and the like. So we sort of looked and went, germanium? So anyway, we opened up the database. It was a Christmas job. We spent Christmas doing that. We found that it's got high-grade germanium in it. It may be even higher. Perhaps we re-assay some of it just to test it. So it sort of piqued our interest. So we did open up the whole database, and what we found in there was, you know, maybe as you can see as I'm sort of calling it, maybe it isn't a pig's ear, which to be fair is what we thought it was. Potentially it's a silk purse. My history around the market for the last 30, 40 years has been that sometimes these assets do give you a lot more than what you initially thought. And as I said, we really had not looked at it literally until Christmas time. And of course, we've been announcing just of late things like what's within the zinc project. The other thing that came up is the Mishka prospect, which being a good West Aussie, and of course I love gold. It's a gold prospect. It's a big footprint, soils, rock chips. Basically nothing's been done on this since 2002, so a prior group did all this work. We had a good hard look at it because just nearby we have something called the Rogue project, which is 80 k's as the crow flies. It's an outstanding new greenfields discovery by a company called Snowline. It's worth having a look at. They've currently up to 7.5 million ounces and still going. There's chatter that has the potential to double. The group behind that, the vendor of our project, is the same party. So it's the Badal family. They're good people. I have good relations with them. When I called up Ron, the old man, to say, we've actually opened up the database and we see this thing called Mishka, what do you think? And he said, well, it's been there forever. Why aren't you looking at it? So he's very positive on that. Of course, they've made a ton of money, 30 years in the making, but they made a ton of money out of that. So I'm on the road to Yukon in a couple of weeks to meet the family, talk about what we do with this project, how we advance it. They've always been interested in coming back into it. So we'll see how all that pans out. But our partner, our current partner is them. They own 10%. So they're motivated, and I think they can help us with perhaps seeing if there's anything at Mishka, plus of course working with the Andrew zinc deposit. So 2 projects, a very clear focus, different parts of the world. Not quite what I expected. I didn't see this coming in November, but both well advanced. Cloncurry, we're looking to monetise that. We'll do further work up there. We love copper, by the way. We're copper bulls. That's why we're there. And of course the Yukon project, which has been an absolute sleeper. And who knows? Who knows? Sometimes things like, as you heard about Paulson's, I was surprised by that because I've watched the history of it. But look what it did. So news flow, probably a bit more drilling up at Mongoose in Q2, plus of course the monetisation of that asset. Yukon, get on site, boots on ground, I think around May, so we're pretty excited to get up there. And our leadership team, so we've got Mark Connolly on the board, so Mark and I have known each other for years. Mark Wallace, who's a former broker but around the space. Pete Rowley, who's helping us with the geology, has vast experience in North America, LATAM, basically globally. He has worked through the Yukon and Alaska because he was technical director for Teck years ago, so a good hand, and we're very happy to have Pete working with us again. And I think that's it. So there we go. I've finished before time. Thank you very much.